Mm.
All right, so we're joined from Dallas, Texas, by my friend, the amazing Tiffani Martin. We thank you so much for joining us. This is our entrepreneurship class. Founder of multiple companies, AI expert out there in Texas. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. We're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you, as always, for taking some time for us today.
Absolutely.
Now, just give us a little background because you are originally from Texas, and you recently got your MBA at Baylor. But just give us a little background in your education history because you run an AI company that deals with all types of cutting edge technology. But just give us a little background in your college journey and what led you to be an entrepreneur.
So, just a slight correction. So, I'm Florida born, but Texas raised. So, I've been
That's right.
here for the majority of my life. But as far as like my collegiate career, um, when I was in high school, I was not the best student. I I was not challenged enough. We'll put it that way. And so, I did not put forth the best effort that I could. And it wasn't until my senior year that I had a teacher really kind of, lean in. And I used to argue with him all the time. And he told me, he said, if you're gonna argue, make sure you know how to argue. So he put me in debate, uh, doing that extracurricular kind of, sparked interest and got me over the finish line. I graduated. I was still unsure if I wanted to go to college, but my mom and dad were advocates, and so I went to community college out here, Dallas colleges, and did that for 2 years because I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I know I wanted to work and just didn't know where and what. And so I'm like, instead of spending all of that money, let me get my core competencies, my core classes done and out the way. So I went the community college route, and then at the end of the 2 years, I transferred to UNT, University of North Texas. And I like to say that I got my degree in hustling. So I got my my business degree in entrepreneurship, and uh, immediately after that went to work. I had a couple internships and went right into global missions, and I used a lot of my marketing, skills in doing that and getting donors and partnerships and spreading the message and all of the work that we were doing globally. And then uh, fast forward, I wanted to go back to school. I had made a hard pivot. I had done marketing, digital marketing to be specific, for quite some time, for about 13 years. And then I decided, once I had lost my vision, and I know we'll talk a little bit about it later, but I wanted to get into technology. I wanted to know from the design, development, and deployment of technology how it works and how to get it to the end user. And so I went and got and this is post, being blind. I went and got my certification as a Scrum Master. I became
Yeah.
a certified product owner, and then I became most recently a certified responsible AI leader. But a couple years ago, I was challenged by a mentor to go back to school, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna do that, being blind. But I applied, I got, denied, rejected. And the schools that I did get rejected by, they always asked me about my ability. And to me, it wasn't about my ability, it was about my intellect. And so I figured those weren't the right places. And I applied to three, and the first one I actually applied to, I didn't hear back until afterwards, but it was Baylor University. And so I went ahead and didn't know how I was going to do it, but decided I was going to do it anyways. And uh, ended up graduating in a year with my MBA in cybersecurity, um, all, multiple honors. And so right now I'm starting to do some applications. I'm in the application process of pursuing a doctorate. So, prayers up.
Wow. That's awesome. And I'm glad you mentioned Scrum Master because even if somebody doesn't want to do the college route, getting that CSM is actually a pretty simple process.
Hmm.
And with that certification, you can put that behind your name and get into business for yourself immediately in the tech industry. So that is a very popular route to go. And I'm glad you mentioned that. That's a big deal. Now, obviously, you did mention your losing of your vision, which happened when you were 27 years old.
Hmm.
So, and it is first of all, your amazing attitude is so contagious to the way that the way you talk about it. But obviously, we had some questions from the kids about the way you do things, but that's part of your business. You have created technology or helped create technology to make life easier for people like yourself because everything in your house is voice activated. You're able to hear things and
Hmm.
use that to live your a pretty normal life. So,
Hmm.
um, just give us a little background on how all that happened and how you've used that to inspire an incredible business, which has really taken off.
Yeah, so I am a type 1 juvenile diabetic. I had it since the age of 5. And just over the years, I did not take the best care of myself. I had a very supportive family and they were very hands-on. But when I got off to college, just all of that independence and freedom, I did not manage it well. And so it all caught up with me at that age of 27. And then over the span of about 6 months, I ended up getting put on dialysis and losing my sight. Now, uh, from then until now, I ended up just losing all of my autonomy, all of my independence. So I ended up getting a transplant 2 years after that happened. And it got me, my life back, but I still didn't get my sight back. And so I went ahead and once I got that transplant, that's when I made the pivot into technology. I had to
That's awesome.
learn how to use a computer from scratch. And, a little bit later, I ended up, marrying my longtime sweetheart friend, Rich. And after we got married, I ended up having kidney rejection. And so we
Oh,
spent our honeymoon, year just experiencing me going into the hospital. And then the year after that was the pandemic. So we had it
wow.
rough, but I used all of that time to build my company, Visiotech, which you mentioned, which is, I also have another company called Jansen Co., and it's our parent company. But I wanted to focus on technology because it really closed the gap for me. And so we started in accessible technologies, but we've evolved. And as of today, we work on AI solutions, cybersecurity solutions, and we do training. And you
Wow.
asked, how I utilize the technology. So everything in my house talks. I'm in my home-based office, and so I use all Mac products, but I started off with PC and nothing against PCs. I just was very familiar with Macs
Yeah,
when I had my
there you
vision.
go.
And so there was a huge learning curve, but everything talks, and I have different devices. So my MacBook Air, and there is a feature on there called voiceover. And once you turn it on, everything on the screen reads. I can try and see if I can do a demo of it right now. So I don't know if you all can hear that.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty
So
cool.
that's pretty much, and I'm gonna turn it off. That's how I navigate the screen. I have my Apple Watch here that talks, and then I have my iPhone. Everything talks with that voiceover feature. And then the house, we have it uh, all wired for Alexa. So as I'm moving around, um, even, there's chimes and sound from my washer and dryer. So everything,
Wow.
operates audibly, but I'm able to be pretty, independent. My husband is with me all the time. We travel and we're moving around, and I'm over at my parents' house, and we've set up Alexa there. But for the most part, I'm doing pretty good by myself. So.
That's so incredible. But we always talk about with entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, no matter what business they are, they solve a problem. And obviously, you had firsthand knowledge of a problem because there's always going to be a need to assess people with disabilities. or
Hmm.
to assist people with disabilities,
Hmm.
whether it be hearing impaired, vision impaired, spinal injuries, whatever. So that business will never go away. So
Yeah.
using that, I still think is so incredible. So, are there new trends that maybe we don't know about that you've discovered that say, hey, this is something I can not only use to change people's lives, but to also make my business more successful?
Well, I mean, AI, like even, my glasses that I didn't mention, these are meta glasses, and I'm able to, scan documents or
Oh, wow.
use it for object recognition. Um,
Wow.
I've taught a class to middle schoolers over the summer and was able to utilize AI to do my lesson plan, my curriculum development. I even
Wow.
created AI generated videos that went over the course. And so, it bridges that gap that I have. Even the screen reader that I just mentioned to you, voiceover, that's powered by AI. But,
Wow.
a lot of what I'm doing now, maybe just like 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do.
That's incredible.
Schools I know are like, hey, we don't want you to use AI. And I'm like, teach differently. And, instead of, when the calculator came, everybody was like, we don't want to use it. And now we have them everywhere. It's one of those things. And so that's what I'm trying to do with my company. Not only bringing solutions, but also like training different entities of how to implement it, if you should implement it. And, if you do, it's the way that you do it and present it. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's cool. Yesterday, I got to introduce you to Dr. Pamela Luckett, actually at Dallas College. She spoke
Oh, okay.
yesterday about digital engagement and how they use AI for that. And look, I know you say, a lot of people say not to use AI, and I think in certain instances in school that should be the case. But in this class, we've actually encouraged the use of AI to come up with
Yeah.
business ideas, not necessarily to do all the work, but to maybe format something for you, to write a mission statement, to write a code of ethics, to help you write a business plan. All you got to do is give it the proper prompt. Say, here's what I'm selling. Here's my idea. How can you help me present this? And it's
Yeah.
amazing how it can be helpful to you. And at least, and I know we agree on this. AI has been a helpful tool in that. I don't think there's anything that's unethical about that.
Yeah, you can absolutely tell somebody's competency level based off of the end result of that output. Even with my students, my middle school students, once they sent me their capstone was to go through the training, the cybersecurity training that we provided, the AI training, and create a video based off of what they learned. So it was a train the trainer. Once I received that video, I could tell their competency of uh of what they learned. I can tell, how many prompts did you really go into it? Did you start with just a one-shot prompt or did you, layer it? Do you understand the
Yeah.
chain of thought? And so
Yep.
it was one of those where, I'm encouraging teachers, let them use it. But then you can determine, how well they understand what they're
There you go.
doing and the topic, based off of the output that's, presented. But no, listen, I would love to get connected with Dallas College and pay it forward. That was my start. And my end goal is to, be a lecturer and just talk about the landscape and how it should be implemented, not just in the workspace. Um, in corporate America and small businesses and nonprofits, but definitely education. That's where my passion is. And Baylor, I give them all the credit. I will rep them. I'm repping them right now. They were the ones that allowed me to use AI for like if there was graphs that I couldn't see, I could use my glasses to see it. If there was images that I
Wow.
needed, they let me use that. Formatting, I can't tell if a period is there. I have to meticulously go through. But having resources like AI automate those things, do my formatting for me, really helped. And I mean, even in the courses, I took a cybersecurity policy course. He encouraged uh, Nick Simmons, that was my professor. He encouraged using Copilot to do the baseline of my policy. And then I had to go through and modify it. And that's how he, graded and assessed our level of understanding.
That's incredible. And yeah, I will definitely connect you guys because she's the Chief Digital Engagement Officer at Dallas College and is a huge AI proponent. And I will definitely get you guys connected here soon. Now, and they've got some incredible questions that we'll get to. But one thing
Okay.
I also want to talk about is obviously your technology expertise is off the charts. And, you blow my mind with some of the stuff that you use every day. But at the end of the day, kids that are, anybody that has any type of business, you can have the best product in the world, but if you can't sell it, you can't make any money. So,
Hmm.
and you got to be able to price it correctly because we're doing a project right now on how to price everything in your company, how to price it correctly. So obviously
Hmm.
that's a science as well. So
Hmm.
as these kids are moving through high school, making the next steps in their life, whether they go into work for themselves or even working for somebody else, being able to communicate and say, "Hey, look, here's what I'm selling you. Here's how it can help you. Here's how much it costs." It is amazing how that ability can set somebody apart in business. Now, I was actually thinking, one thing about you that I hugely envy is that when you get up and speak, you're not going to have to worry about people staring at you because you know, you, you know, I'm comfortable speaking, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that didn't make me nervous. But all joking aside, being able to, to walk in a room and introduce yourself, being able to say, "Hey, here's what I have, here's how it can help you, and here's the value you're going to get." How important are those communication skills on top of all the technology skills?
Let me let me let me be straight up with you. When I'm doing these, public speaking, it sucks really. Like for me, because I can't gauge body language. It you can look, and if somebody on their phone or they knocked out, you can be like, ah, man, I'm straight trash right now, but I just have to go by like what I hear and try to make it interactive. I try to be funny. So like when I come on stage, I always introduce like, hey, everybody, you're looking great. And what if I get like a laugh? I'm like, all right, we good. I can keep going. Or, I'll have my husband kind of give me a sound signal, to help. But
Okay.
communication, I have not been the best communicator, and I am still working on it. Um, One of the things with AI, everybody's like, freaking out because oh, I have to learn a new skill. And I've been going against that and said, no, you have to learn behavior. And one of the three C's that I always preach about is creativity, critical thinking, and the most important out of all of it is communication when you're using AI. And so if you do not know how to articulate your thoughts, to get an idea from its inception to like the end goal, and express as well as add on that layer of passion as well as competency, then you can do effective prompting for AI. But those
Wow.
same skills are transferable when you're communicating. And so what I did, because I was a nervous networker when I was younger, and even more so now that I'm blind, is I would just practice. And so I would go to my parents and I'm like, y'all have no idea what anything is in tech. But if I was able to explain an idea to them and they got it, then
There you
okay,
go. There you go.
So I would suggest doing that.
Yeah, and as silly as that sounds, it is amazing how effective that is. Because
Mm.
I always, I have girls that a lot of times they say they want to do hair. Well, I will say, well, look, if you can explain to somebody what you're going to do to their hair that knows nothing about hair and still be able to take their money, you know how to sell. Or
Yeah.
if one of the guys he had to just leave because he's with the band, he does HVAC. If you can explain to
Mhm.
somebody that doesn't know anything about how to install an HVAC system in their home and still get them to buy it, you know how to sell. That doesn't mean you're getting up and speaking in front of thousands of people. That just means that you're a great communicator, and it is just so vital in business to be able to do that. On top of
Yeah.
having the skills that you have as a business, but I know I get on a soapbox about that, and I know they get sick of it, but I just think it's important. Well, I do
Well, I
have
have
some
a cheat
questions.
code. Well, real quick, I have a cheat code on that. What I do in the mornings is I'll hop on ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, whatever one, and I'll turn on voice mode. And I do believe it comes with a paid subscription, but the free version, I think under the free account, you get a couple of minutes. But I'll ask it to interview me and we'll have a discussion
Wow.
in order for it to modify, my sales pitch, my
Dang.
elevator. And so I'll just talk to it and it'll give me feedback. I'll ask it to give me feedback, but give me, scenario-based questions and interview, if I'm interviewing for something, prep me on my interview questions and let's interview me as as a reporter or interview me as a potential client. And we'll just go back and forth. And at the end, it'll give me critiques on what to do better, what was great, things of that. So use the technology that's out here to practice, build your
Wow.
confidence up, test it out on your parents or your siblings, anybody that's not in your field, and then go from there.
Wow, man, golly, you're full of some incredible knowledge. But this is a good question. This is Shateria Hannon. She's in 10th grade. And this isn't talked about enough. She goes, "How do you plan financially for your business? Because obviously your background is in tech. The business and financial side is a big part of managing it. So how do you manage the finances and of the business and your business's future?"
Well, first of all, hey girl, hey. And second of all, I am so bad at numbers. So bad. Like that is not my strong suit. And it's crazy because my mom and my sister are both accountants. And my sister graduated from Texas Tech at age of 21 with both a bachelor's and a master's in accounting. And I'm like, do you know I am failing right in accounting?
Wow.
But no, with that being said, uh, if you're not good at something, see who's in your network, vet them out. And when I say vet, you got to build up trust. They have to earn your trust. And once you get to that point, let the experts be the experts in your field. What you know best is your domain. Like if you
Wow.
are in hair, you know uh what a good weave is, you know the best texture, you know the best products, you know your clientele, hair texture, color, all of those things, you know that well. What they know is numbers. So when you are, building up, like let's say your clientele, this is who you want to target, you have to know that part. You have to know what you use on a daily basis, your expenses. If you want the best product, you need to know what that cost is. And you need to make sure that whoever you partner with knows just like the competitor landscape. What's your competition doing? Where are they
There you
setting
go.
their prices at? If you're going to offer premium services as well as premium products, then you need to know where the fair market value is for those things. But I would strongly, there are free courses out there. One resource that I use and I talk about all the time is if you are connected to a public library, and probably one that is open to everybody statewide, you can take that library card number that you have and sign up to LinkedIn Learning and get so many free resources. And you don't have to pay for it. It's completely free. And they will teach you beginner level, finance courses and stuff like that. And so I would encourage people, to do that. I'm always looking for what's free. But yeah, that would be my recommendation for that.
Awesome. I like this one. This is Raheem Cole. He's in 9th grade. And he asked, "What has been your biggest motivations during your failures and setbacks?"
So, hey man, my biggest motivation is the work that I do, even though I'm a for-profit company, I am a social impact tech company. That
Big time.
means we do the work for companies that are mission driven. And so whenever there's a failure, I say, fail fast, fail quick, but fail forward. And so I know that the work that I'm doing is bigger than myself and whatever failure that we have. And I don't look at them as L's. Um, I just look at them as lessons. And so it's like when we fail fast and fail quick and fail cheap, then I take that as a learned lesson and try to move forward and use it in my knowledge base. As well as, sharing those failures with everybody else. You never know, somebody might be experiencing the same thing or somebody might have a solution. So yeah.
That's awesome. Now this one is Edward Flowers. He had to leave, but he got to hear you last year, and he was very excited about getting to hear you again.
Okay.
Um, so he's in 11th grade. He's the one I was mentioning is in the HVAC business. But he wanted to ask you this question. He asked, with all the tests that have been done with AI lately, do you think that there is a real threat to human life or human careers in the future?
Life, no. Um, that would what he's alluding to is super intelligence. We're not there, but all of the big tech companies are trying to get to that point. What makes us different is the critical thinking and creativity. And so uh, there are some guardrails in place. Kill switches are always in place. The cybersecurity landscape is advancing just as fast as the technology is. So in that sense of the technology kind of turning on us, no. But with that said, the data that is needed to power the technology is where you need to be concerned about because you have places like South Memphis, in which there is a data center called Colossus, or Colossus, I believe, that is being built there by Elon Musk, but it absorbs a lot of energy and natural energy. And the pollution from that, as well as the power from that, is taken from the neighboring communities. So if we're talking about that impact, yes, I think that'll be significant. If we're talking about the machines turning on us, no. Um, the second
Yeah,
part of that
yeah, it's
question,
not like our robot.
no, no. And the second part of that question, as far as jobs, with any industrial revolution, there are going to be jobs that are no longer existent. We do
Yeah.
not need horse and buggy drivers. We are our own drivers, drive cars and so forth. But with Henry Ford bringing in, that mass assembly line and manufacturing to build the Model T, car, and capitalize off of that, new jobs were created. The assembly line and even the 9 to 5 schedule, that was put in place to optimize the maximum output that a human being could do. But now we have robots that's doing that. And now those humans that were doing the job of assembling the parts are now being the technicians behind the robots, but they have to
There you
know
go.
what the robots have to do to put that, car together. So it's a change, there's a transitioning happening. Yes, there will be some jobs that we no longer see, but people are going to have to change and kind of adapt and, take on the new jobs that are being created.
Yeah, and our young people can get engineering and robotic certifications in high school, and that could lead them to come up with the next great robotic business idea.
Yeah.
And that really is the trend that's going. All right, I got time for two more. This is
Okay.
Albrianna Towner. She's in 11th grade, and she asked, "What makes your business unique?"
Hey, what makes it unique? Me. Um, simply put, um, I am the only version of myself ever in the history of the world, in the past or in the future, in current, present. There will never ever be another
Wow.
me. And so everything that I bring into my company, our mission, our vision, our values, that is crafted by me. And if I do it right and I build a substantial, sustainable company, uh, my those after me, my that will succeed me, they will take on those principles and those values and continue on that legacy. But that one it factor, that one thing that makes me unique, is me, because quite frankly, there's a lot of people in AI. There's a lot of people in tech. There are much bigger companies that you all know, um, but they don't have my heart, my grind, my passion, as well as the skills that I've put together and continue to build. So yeah.
Man, what a great answer. All right, I got one more. This is Kaylin Bullock. She's in 9th grade, and she asked, "What is the most challenging part about being an entrepreneur with a disability? Do people ever look at you differently?"
Absolutely. Um, you know, I have to change the narrative of what it is to be a person with a disability. Even in language, people say, "Oh, you're a disabled entrepreneur or a disabled, professional." And I say, "No, I'm a professional with a disability." Between myself and society, I cannot change being having a disability, but society can change how it receives. And so I always say society is disabled because it has limited itself in the fullness of the people that encompass it. So yes, I've encountered many a times where I've met with companies and because I had a disability, they passed me up and sometimes for lesser, organizations. And I've had to use my partners who are sighted to have the initial meeting. And then once I come in, we've already, secured the contract. But I've had to work around a lot of misconceptions, ableism, and even it's not that I'm just a person with a disability. I am a Black woman with a disability in a tech space which is predominantly male driven, so I got to
Yeah.
do my best, and not, everybody else has um the luxury of just kind of coming in, and they can be mediocre if they want to. I can't. So those are some of the challenges that I face.
Wow. And you talk about what you bring to the table. You bring more than most people um, do regardless. And I'm just always amazed by everything you do. But we're almost out of time. And as always, we just thank you so much for taking some time for us. But a few things before we go. First of all, Visiotech, the website, you got some great things on there. Tell them where they can find more information about your company.
You can learn more about us, Visiotech, Visiotech.co, and that's .co, not .com.
Yeah, and really, really cool content. You guys got some cool YouTube videos. I love the avatar y'all have. It's pretty interesting. So, yeah, I encourage everybody to go look at that. But the last thing before we go, and it really is, I'm always in awe of everything you're able to do. But I think it's important for people to understand because you mentioned you're an entrepreneur that has a disability. You're not a disabled entrepreneur. Just because you've lost your eyesight doesn't mean that you're not just as or more capable than most people. It doesn't mean that you are not a strong, driven woman. And people don't need to view people with a disability as to be fearful. They need to give them opportunities. There's always room for accommodation. Always needs to be done. So if anybody ever or anybody that currently is dealing with a disability or dealing with one in the future, maybe in their family, what do they need to know? Because look, before you came online, I said, look, just because somebody has lost their eyesight does not mean they cannot do anything else we can do. So the opportunities are endless, especially with all this technology. So if someone is dealing with a disability or someone in their family has a disability, what can they do to be just as successful as someone like you?
I hope you're more successful than I am. I hope I am the floor. And my
Wow.
encouragement to you all as young adults, y'all are growing up in a world that has a lot more opportunity than we ever had before, but there's a lot of other challenges that are quite frankly against you all. And I'm gonna be very, upfront about it.
Yeah.
But if you have a disability and you're kind of questioning yourself, like, you have to build that confidence, but you have to use what's at arm's length. And so if you're able to get the certifications
Yep.
at this age, do it.
Yeah.
Make sure that they're making it accommodating for you by law, and hopefully it will be upheld and stay intact. But by law, they have to make education accommodating. And
Yeah.
so, request alternative formats for it. If you're dealing with a family member that has a disability and maybe you're there to encourage them, keep in mind that I never say that, and this is poor English, I never say that I can't do anything. All I say is I flip it and I say, it just takes me a little bit longer. You
Wow.
know, in soon, I'm hoping very soon, I can't drive, right?
Yeah.
That's something I absolutely can't do. But with automated vehicles, very soon I could, drive myself somewhere. And so it's just a matter of time. And so give yourself grace, be patient with yourself, but whatever you can grab and do, go do it. That's what I did.
Wow.
If Baylor was going to give me an opportunity, not only did I take that opportunity, I graduated with a 4.0.
Dang.
I there was going to be nothing that they could do to stop me once they gave me the opportunity. And once they let me know that they were going to support me, I told them I'm going to be the best student that they ever had. And I'm still doing, different things, for them, whether getting featured or just speaking or just walking around with my Baylor sweatshirt, proudly repping them. Take all of the opportunities that you can.
Wow. I mean, and just like I said, I'm always floored by your amazing attitude, your amazing skills. One of the best, absolutely one of the best guests we've ever had on this platform. And I just thank you so much for taking some time for us. And I encourage everyone to, check out your website, check out your videos. You've got some great content, great news stories about your incredible journey as well. So, really an inspiration to so many people. And we just thank you so much for taking some time for us, all the way from Dallas, Texas. My friend, Tiffani Martin, founder of Visiotech. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
I talk to you soon, buddy.
All right.
Yeah.